Voices from the Ranks, The Oak Tree, at Gettysburg, Chapter 1. June 30th, 1863. The rain had stopped sometime during the night. Private Samuel Carter of the Union Army sat beside a small campfire, staring into the glowing embers, while dawn slowly illuminated the Pennsylvania countryside. At 19 years old, he looked younger than most soldiers in his regiment. His blue uniform hung loosely on his thin frame. His face still carried traces of boyhood. The war had changed many things. It had not yet stolen that. Around him, men stirred awake. Some cursed quietly as they pulled on damp boots. Others reached for coffee tins, blackened by countless campfires. The smell of wood smoke drifted through the morning air. Samuel accepted a cup of coffee from Corporal Jenkins. "Sleep any?" "A little." "You're lying?" Samuel smiled weakly. Everyone knew why he wasn't sleeping. His sister's husband, Thomas Whitaker, served in the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia. The last letter Samuel received from home had confirmed it. Thomas had joined a Virginia regiment 2 years earlier. Neither man hated the other. Neither wanted to fight. Yet both had chosen different sides. Now General Robert E. Lee's army was somewhere nearby, perhaps only a few miles away, perhaps less. Samuel stared into the distance. Somewhere beyond those hills marched his brother-in-law. Somewhere beyond those hills, an entire nation was tearing itself apart. Chapter 2, July 1st, the thunder begins. The first shots reached them shortly after sunrise. At first they sounded distant, scattered musket fire, then came artillery. The deep rolling thunder echoed across the countryside. Officers mounted horses. Orders raced through camp. Men grabbed rifles. The Army of the Potomac was moving, fast, very fast. By midday, Samuel found himself marching toward Gettysburg. The roads were crowded with blue-coated soldiers. Dust filled the air. The summer heat was already oppressive. As they approached the town, wounded men began appearing. Some limped, others were carried, many were covered in blood. The sight silenced even the veterans. The battle was growing. The regiment reached Cemetery Hill late in the day. Ahead of them, the 1st and 11th Corps had been driven back through Gettysburg by Confederate attacks. Thousands of exhausted Union soldiers poured into defensive positions south of town. Samuel watched artillery crews drag cannon into place. Officers shouted orders. Engineers strengthened defenses. The army was preparing for a larger fight. As darkness approached, Samuel climbed a small rise and looked north. Campfires stretched across the horizon, thousands of them. The Confederate Army had arrived. Tomorrow would be worse. Everyone knew it. Chapter 3, July 2nd. The longest day. The heat arrived early. By mid-morning, sweat-soaked uniforms, dust-coated faces. The battlefield stretched for miles, from Cemetery Ridge to Little Round Top, from the Peach Orchard to Devil's Den. The entire landscape seemed alive with soldiers. Samuel's regiment occupied part of Cemetery Ridge. Throughout the morning, artillery exchanged fire. Shells screamed overhead. Some exploded among the ranks. Others struck the ground and scattered dirt and stone. The waiting was torture. Men could hear fighting erupting to the south. Little Round Top, Devil's Den, the wheat field, names that would become famous. At the time, they were simply places where men were dying. Then the Confederate assault began. Gray lines emerged from the smoke. Thousands of them, battle flags waving, officers shouting, drums beating. Samuel felt his stomach tighten. Fear settled over him like a physical weight. The enemy continued advancing, closer, closer, closer. "Hold your fire," the officers shouted repeatedly. Samuel's hands trembled. The rifle felt slippery. A Confederate shell exploded nearby. A man screamed. Another collapsed, clutching his face. Still, the enemy advanced. Finally, the order came. Fire! The ridge erupted. Hundreds of rifles discharged simultaneously. Smoke engulfed everything. The noise was deafening. Samuel loaded and fired again. The world became chaos. Men shouting, officers screaming, the wounded crying for help, the dead lying motionless in the grass. Beside him, Corporal Jenkins suddenly collapsed. A bullet had entered his chest. Samuel dropped beside him. Blood soaked the corporal's uniform. "Tell my wife." The words never finished. His eyes stared upward, empty. Samuel remained frozen. The battle raged around him, but all he could see was his friend lying in the dirt. Anger replaced fear. Anger at the war, anger at the Confederates, anger at fate itself. He stood and resumed firing, hour after hour, until darkness finally ended the slaughter. Chapter 4, July 3rd. Pickett's charge. The morning began with silence. An uneasy silence, the kind soldiers learned to fear. Then came the artillery. Around 1 o'clock, the Confederate bombardment began. More than 100 guns opened fire. The earth shook continuously. Shells exploded across Cemetery Ridge. Trees splintered. Horses screamed. Men crouched behind stone walls. The noise seemed endless. Samuel pressed himself against the ground. The air smelled of smoke and sulfur. Every breath tasted of powder. Then, suddenly, the guns fell silent. A strange calm settled over the battlefield. An officer standing nearby pointed west. "My God!" Samuel looked up. Across nearly a mile of open ground stood thousands of Confederate soldiers. Perfect ranks, battle flags waving, sunlight glinting from bayonets. Pickett's charge had begun. The Confederate line moved forward, steadily, deliberately, as though marching on parade. Union artillery opened fire. Shells tore gaps through the advancing ranks. Still they came. Rifles joined the barrage. Still they came. Samuel could scarcely believe it. The courage required was unimaginable. The Confederates crossed fences, passed through artillery fire, endured musket volleys, yet they continued forward. Some reached the stone wall. Brief hand-to-hand fighting erupted. For a moment, the battle hung in the balance. Then the Confederate line broke. Men began retreating. Some walked, some ran, some simply collapsed. The attack had failed. The battle was won. Chapter 5. The battlefield, July 4th, arrived beneath grey skies. Rain began falling shortly after dawn. The battlefield smelled of wet earth, blood, and death. Samuel walked slowly across the fields. Victory no longer felt glorious. It felt exhausting. Everywhere he looked lay the cost. Broken cannon, discarded rifles, dead horses, bodies, thousands of bodies, Union and Confederate alike. He noticed something strange. Several Confederate dead had no shoes. Their feet were wrapped in cloth. Others were completely barefoot. The long marches of Lee's army had worn out their footwear. Samuel stared at them. The sight struck him deeply. These men had crossed states and fought one of history's greatest battles with bare feet. Whatever else they were, they had endured suffering beyond imagination. Hours passed. The rain continued. Then he found him, Thomas Whitaker, his brother-in-law, the man who had married his sister, the man who had once sat at their family table. Thomas lay beneath an old oak tree near a fence line. A bullet hole marked his chest. His face was peaceful, as though sleeping. Samuel knelt beside him. For a long time, he said nothing. The war suddenly felt smaller. Not armies, not politics, not generals, just families broken apart. Brother against brother. American against American. He dug the grave himself. The earth was soft from rain. When the work was finished, he placed a simple wooden marker beside the tree. Then he removed his hat and prayed. Chapter 6. The Letter Home. 3 days later, Samuel sat beneath canvas shelter and began writing. His hands shook. Rain tapped softly against the tent. The words came slowly. Dear Sarah, I hardly know how to write this letter. Thomas was here at Gettysburg. I found him after the battle beneath an old oak tree near the Emmitsburg Road. He died bravely. There was no suffering when I found him. I buried him myself and marked the grave as best I could. I know no words can ease your pain. I wish with all my heart this war had never happened. Thomas often spoke kindly of you whenever we met before the war. I want you to know that he was not alone in the end. Family found him, and family laid him to rest. When this terrible war is over, I will take you there myself. Your loving brother, Samuel. When he finished, tears blurred the ink. Outside, the Army of Northern Virginia was retreating south toward Virginia. The Battle of Gettysburg was over. The Union had won. Yet Samuel understood something many soldiers eventually learned. There are victories that still leave a man mourning, and there are battlefields that remain with him for the rest of his life. Gettysburg would be one of them.